I know my generation's entitled, but I don't believe anybody owes me anything. I'm not a victim, I won't be an HR nightmare, and I believe in capitalism.
Her name's Maddy.
When we last saw Maddy Perez in the Season 2 finale, she handed Cassie Howard a chilling, almost prophetic warning. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. We cheered for Maddy in that moment. It felt like the ultimate triumph of her character arc. After 2 seasons of psychological warfare, emotional abuse, and the devastating betrayal of her best friend, Maddy was finally packing her bags, leaving East Highland behind and choosing to not look back. It felt like a clean escape. But Euphoria's 3rd season, with its brutal 5-year time jump, forces us to look back. It drags us out of the neon-soaked, dream-like safety net of high school and drops us right into the cold, transactional reality of early adulthood. And in this new world, we quickly learn that Maddy's clean escape was an illusion. When we catch up with Maddy in Los Angeles, she doesn't have a college degree, she doesn't have a trust fund, and she certainly doesn't have a safety net. She is broke, scraping by, and fueled entirely by a desperate, near-religious hunger for control over her own life. In our previous deep dive into Maddy's character, we talked a lot about her armor, how she used her visual presentation, her style, and her fiercely protective code of loyalty to survive a toxic relationship and a broken home. But in adulthood, the nature of the threat changes. Her armor can no longer just be a shield, it has to become a business. Maddy's journey in the 3rd season is a masterclass in the commodification of the gaze. She realizes that her greatest teenage survival tool, the ability to command a room simply by being looked at, is actually a valuable commodity in a capitalist system. She decides to stop being the product and start being the manager. But as she climbs her way up, her fierce commitment to absolute independence leads her down an incredibly dark path. In a world of systemic predators, corporate hustle, and actual, literal wolves, Maddy's self-reliance becomes her deepest tragedy. Because when you refuse to rely on anyone, you end up standing completely alone when the system decides to bite back. Chapter 1. The Business of Being Looked At. Commodification of the gaze. To understand Maddy's adult mindset, we have to look at the spectacular restaurant scene where she swindles her way into a job at a high-powered Hollywood talent agency. She doesn't send in a resume. Instead, she ambushes an executive, looks her dead in the eye, and delivers a monologue that acts as the thesis statement for her entire adult life. I didn't apply for college. My parents were immigrants. I know my generation is entitled, but I don't believe anyone owes me anything. I won't be an HR nightmare, and I believe in capitalism. It is a stunning, deeply cynical piece of self-awareness. Maddy has looked at the system, recognized its cruelty, and decided that instead of fighting it, she is going to master it. She understands that in Hollywood, as in East Highland, power belongs to those who control the narrative and the gaze. We see this immediately in her physical transformation. The rhinestone-studded, cut-out matching sets of her teenage years are gone, replaced by a highly curated, executive mob wife aesthetic. She is wearing oversized Jacques-Marie Mage designer shades, tailored vintage fur coats, and Prada Mary Janes. It is a brilliant psychological upgrade. This wardrobe isn't just about fashion, it is the visual language of authority. Maddy is styling herself like a woman who is untouchable because she knows exactly how close she is to falling off the edge. In the first 2 seasons, Maddy's armor was defensive. She made people look at her to keep them at a distance. If they were staring at her flawless makeup and her sharp eyeliner, they couldn't see the crying girl hiding underneath. But in Los Angeles, she realizes that the gaze is a transactional currency. The entertainment industry is entirely built on the business of being looked at, and Maddy is determined to be the one collecting the tax. She is no longer just protecting her vulnerabilities, she is monetizing her trauma. She has stepped behind the curtain, trading the drama of being the star for the quiet, calculated power of being the director. Chapter 2. algorithm over affection, the MadCassie Corporation. The most fascinating and deeply ironic realization of this business mindset is her adult relationship with Cassie Howard. 5 years after the explosive fallout of high school, we find Cassie and Nate Jacobs living a deeply unhappy suburban life, drowning under the weight of Nate's astronomical financial debts. To keep them afloat, Cassie turns to OF, and the woman pulling the strings behind her digital camera is none other than Maddy Perez. If you had told me during Season 2 that these two would end up as business partners, I wouldn't have believed you. Their rivalry was legendary, a toxic explosion of teenage passion and betrayal. But in adulthood, they have completely bypassed emotional reconciliation and gone straight to a corporate merger. They have realized that their shared trauma and Cassie's public infamy as a homewrecker is a highly bankable asset. This is where Maddy's genius as a manager truly shines. She takes Cassie's subscriber count from 17,000 to 50,000 with a deeply cynical, brilliant understanding of the internet. The angrier these idiots get, the more money you make. She teaches Cassie how to rage bait the algorithm. When Cassie tries to make her content soft, romantic, and desperate for approval, Maddy cuts through the noise. She tells her to stop trying so hard and just be. Maddy is treating Cassie's life as a product, formatting her pain into a digestible, profitable digital script. It is a brilliant, pitch-black evolution of their dynamic. Instead of letting their past destroy them, they have franchised it. But there's a profound tragedy underlying the MadCassie Corporation. In high school, Maddy's defining trait was her fierce, ride-or-die loyalty. Her friendships were her chosen family. But under the weight of adult capitalism, that loyalty has been entirely reorganized. They're not best friends healing their wounds, they're business partners trading in attention. Their connection is no longer about mutual affection, it's about mutual survival. It shows us that to survive in this new world, Maddy has had to sacrifice the very thing she valued most: genuine, uncompromised human connection. Chapter 3. Naivety in a World of Wolves. The Hot Tub Mistake. Because Maddy has successfully conquered the corporate talent world and mastered the attention economy of OF, she begins to believe her own hype. She believes she is untouchable. This hubris leads her to sign a 15% deal to manage the performers at strip clubs owned by Alamo Brown, a terrifying, systemic predator who operates in the dark underbelly of the city. To Maddy, Alamo is just another executive to be managed, another client to be manipulated with her usual brand of confidence and charm. But Alamo isn't a Hollywood agent with an HR department. He is a ruthless, violent crime lord. And in this transition from corporate capitalism to organized crime, Maddy's high school survival instincts completely fail her. In high school, gossip is currency. Knowing a secret gives you social power, leverage, and protection. But in the adult world of violent crime, gossip is a death sentence. We see this play out in the deeply unsettling hot tub scene. Relaxing with Alamo, Maddy casually drops a piece of information, a fight Rue had had with her friends regarding the DEA. To Maddy, this is just social currency, a bit of dramatic storytelling to keep her client engaged and prove her value. But to Alamo, it is a piece of tactical intelligence. Maddy doesn't realize that with a few casual words, she has just signed a warrant for Rue's life. This is the exact moment Maddy's armor of confidence completely shatters. She is suddenly forced to realize that she is a child playing in a forest of wolves. She is used to dealing with boys like Nate Jacobs, whose violence was emotional, domestic, and ultimately predictable. Alamo Brown represents a cold, systematic, predatory violence that doesn't care about her sharp eyeliner, her tailored fur coats, or her quick wit. He looks at her and doesn't see a formidable business partner. He sees a pawn to be used and discarded. It is a terrifying awakening for Maddy, proving that in her desperate race for absolute independence, she has walked right into a trap where her teenage armor means absolutely nothing.
I wouldn't have thought of you as a poodle man.
I like to surprise people.
You know what I would find surprising? A little grace in this world.
Chapter 4: The Suburban Illusion. There is a major misconception among viewers that Maddy's sharp tongue and intimidating posture translate directly into street smarts. But there's a massive, tragic difference between surviving a high school boyfriend like Nate Jacobs and navigating a criminal empire run by Alamo Brown. When Season 3 forces Maddy into the deep end of organized crime, her suburban illusions are completely shattered. High school was a controlled environment. Adulthood, particularly in the predatory margins of LA, is a lawless wasteland. We see this tragic disconnect play out in the horrifying sequence where Maddy is forced to ask Alamo for financial help to save Nate and Cassie from their escalating crises. When Nate's debts catch up to him, Cassie is left entirely helpless, and Maddy, driven by her stubborn, deeply ingrained code of loyalty, decides to negotiate. She walks in thinking she can use her usual leverage. She thinks she can talk her way through it. But Alamo quickly reminds her of the steep price of admission. He forces her to strip down, put on a swimsuit, and get into his hot tub just to hear her pitch. It is a deeply humiliating, dehumanizing scene. In a single moment, Maddy is stripped of her executive wardrobe, her designer shades, and her projected authority. She is reduced to using the exact physical currency she has spent her entire life trying to outgrow. It highlights a brutal reality about the American dream Maddy believed she was conquering. For a woman in a deeply patriarchal capitalist system, power is often entirely conditional. Her high school armor was designed to intimidate boys who wanted her approval. Against a man like Alamo, who only sees her as an object of consumption, that armor dissolves. The tragedy of her independence in this chapter is her sudden, devastating realization that she cannot simply hustle her way out of a system that is rigged against her from the very start. Chapter 5: A Little Grace in This Life. The Bishop Connection. But just when the show seems to suggest that Maddy is completely powerless, it reveals where her true, understated strength actually lies. It isn't in her corporate deals, and it isn't in her physical appearance. It is in her residual humanity. This is best illustrated through her enigmatic relationship with Bishop, Alamo's silent, deeply dangerous enforcer. Throughout the third season, Bishop is presented as an absolute monster. He is a man who routinely commits unspeakable acts of violence to maintain Alamo's empire. He rarely speaks, and when he does, it is usually in cold, threatening metaphors. But Maddy, with her sharp emotional intelligence, sees past the mask of the enforcer. During a quiet, heavy conversation in his car on the drive to the Silver Slipper, the two share a rare moment of vulnerability. When Bishop cryptically tells her that he likes to surprise people, Maddy doesn't fire back with a defensive insult. Instead, she drops her guard entirely and says, "You know what would surprise me? A little grace in this life." It is a beautiful, quiet moment that ultimately changes the entire trajectory of the finale. While many viewers wanted to ship Maddy and Bishop as a romantic pairing, the reality is much more complex and thematic. Bishop isn't a hero, and he doesn't kill Alamo purely to save Maddy, but that conversation sparks something in him. When Ali later storms the strip club to avenge Rue's tragic fentanyl overdose, Alamo draws his gun early to cheat in their duel, only for his weapon to click empty. Bishop had quietly unloaded the bullets beforehand, choosing that specific moment to finally execute his own long-awaited betrayal of his boss. Maddy's plea for a little grace becomes the moral catalyst for Alamo's downfall. In a world defined by absolute ruthlessness, Maddy's ability to connect with another broken human being, to ask for mercy when she has absolutely no leverage, is what ultimately saves her. Her emotional intelligence is the one piece of her armor that actually works against the monsters of the real world. Chapter 6. The Broken Code and the Diner Reclamation. With Nate Jacobs dead and Alamo Brown gunned down, the finale brings us to a quiet, devastating resolution that mirrors the iconic bathroom scenes of the early seasons. We find Maddy and Cassie sitting in a diner, completely stripped of their glamorous facades, looking at the wreckage of the lives they tried to build. Their reconciliation is beautiful, but it is deeply melancholy. The fierce, uncomplicated loyalty Maddy valued in high school has been permanently fractured by the realities of their choices. Cassie decides to double down on her OF ventures, converting her old suburban home into a boarding house for female influencers, a desperate attempt to maintain a grip on the American dream that has already taken so much from her. Maddy, however, makes a different choice. She takes her cut of Cassie's earnings, packs her bags, and prepares to leave with Bishop. The ending is highly ambiguous. On one hand, Maddy is finally free. She is free from the constant abuse of Nate, free from the immediate, terrifying threat of Alamo, and free from the crushing debts of her past. But on the other hand, she is leaving with Bishop, a violent criminal who has just inherited a massive power vacuum. She has escaped one master only to align herself with another, proving that in this world, survival always comes with a price. As they sit in that diner, sharing a quiet, tactile touch, they realize they have survived, but they also realize they had to burn down their teenage selves to do it. The code they once shared is gone, replaced by a quiet, unspoken understanding that they are both compromised survivors of a system that tried to consume them. Ultimately, Maddy Perez's journey across all 3 seasons of Euphoria is a profound deconstruction of the mean girl archetype. In high school, we thought she was the final boss, the queen bee who had it all figured out. We watched her build an impenetrable fortress of confidence, fashion, and attitude to protect herself from a world that was constantly trying to break her down. But Season 3 shows us the real cost of that crown. Adulthood didn't give Maddy a clean victory, and it didn't give her an easy escape. It forced her to make impossible, compromising choices just to stay afloat. Her armor evolved from rhinestone makeup to tailored fur coats, and her survival tactics evolved from teenage gossip to corporate management, but the core of her struggle remained exactly the same. A young woman fighting with everything she has to maintain control over her own body and her own destiny. Maddy ends the series not as a defeated villain or a perfect hero, but as a resilient, deeply compromised survivor. She taught us that the armor of confidence isn't always a sign of vanity. Sometimes it is the only thing keeping a young woman standing when the world is actively trying to pull her under. And while her independence came at a tragic, isolating cost, Maddy Perez leaves us with a quiet, undeniable truth. No matter how dark the world gets, and no matter how many wolves are waiting at the door, she will always find a way to survive. What do you think? Did Maddy actually win in the end by escaping on her own terms, or did the system just find a new, more dangerous way to keep her bound? Season 3 left her with one of the most complex, morally gray endings of the entire show, and I'm really curious to hear your theories on where she and Bishop are heading next. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read and reply to as many as I can. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Maddy's adult evolution, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot, and we do detailed character analyses and narrative breakdowns like this regularly. Also, if you missed my first video essay on Maddy, where we broke down her high school armor, her strict code of loyalty, and the roots of her toxic relationship with Nate, it is linked on the screen and in the description below. Definitely check that out to get the full picture of just how far her character has traveled. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.